So what's the real reason why millennials and Gen Z seem to not be able to buy homes today? Well, we're gonna do a breakdown. Hi, Pupper. Good morning. Come here. Hi. Why can't millennials buy homes today, buddy? Why can't millennials buy homes? Why can't they? So first, in order to explain why millennials and Gen Z cannot buy homes, we first have to wind the clock back about 40 or 50 years. So way back in the year 1970, the average income, family household income in 1970 was $9,870. And that is obviously without adjusting for inflation. But in today's dollars, that would make the average household income in 1970 roughly about $54,000. And today in the United States, the average household income is actually $56,000. So actually today, people and the average family has more buying power than the average family did back in 1970. But again, that's just a few percentage points. So roughly you have the same buying power today that your parents had, or grandparents for a lot of you Gen Zers out there. And so just also doing some quick math on this, if the average income in 1970 was $9,800 roughly, and today it's about $56,000, that's about a 5.7 times increase in terms of average income over the course of 50 years. And so now let's take a look at the average household price in 1970. In 1970, the average household price was about $23,600. And today, the average household price is $215,000. Meaning that housing prices have increased by about 10 times what they were in 1970, yet income, the average household income, has really only increased by about 5.5 times. Meaning that one of the problems for why millennials and Gen Z cannot buy houses is not because they're making less than their parents, but it's actually just because the housing prices have just gone way higher proportionally to how they were in 1970. But that's only one of the reasons, so let's keep digging here. So just doing some quick math here, the average price to buy a home in 1970 with your parents and grandparents, it was roughly 2.5 times, or about 2.4 times the average income. But meanwhile, today, it's over 4 times your average income, or roughly 4 times the average income. So pretty much the price to income ratio has increased by about 50 to 60%. And so this got me thinking about the question, why have real estate prices increased over the last 50 years, yet salaries of the average person and average household have not? And one of the things that got me thinking about this is actually talking to my dad. So my parents bought a home about 11 or 12 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. And over the course of those 11 to 12 years, the valuation of their home has increased by quite a bit. And this is viewed as a good thing. I mean, people, when they buy homes, they want to view it as at least a partial investment. Even though it's not a great investment, it's kind of a neutral one, but I have tons of other videos on that, so go check out my real estate playlist if you want to know why buying your own home is kind of a neutral investment. So anyways, I heard some news clips recently about how a lot of people in Ontario, in Toronto, they want to increase the supply of homes being built in the area. And this is because a lot of people in Toronto and Ontario realize that it is nearly impossible for the average millennial or Gen Z person to buy their own home. So when you increase the supply of households available, hopefully that would decrease the prices and the cost of actually purchasing a home for the first time. But there is pushback for this legislation, particularly from people that are homeowners who are just so happen to be older, you know, in their 50s and 60s. This is because people that already own their own homes, they're very much enjoying this increase in valuation of their homes due to an increased demand for real estate, yet not a proportional increasing amount of supply. And so this is seen a lot in a place like San Francisco, where real estate prices have been shooting up a ton over the last 10, 20, 30 years. And the reason for this is because the demand for real estate in San Francisco has gone up a lot. However, a bigger reason is that they have not increased the supply of affordable real estate. There's been a ton of pushback on the legislature that would increase the amount of homes being built in the area, specifically apartment buildings and single-family homes. And to be honest, I understand the frustration with a lot of homeowners that don't want additional real estate construction to occur in their city, their province, their state, and so on. I mean, picture you do make a decent amount of money and you've been saving, maybe you make $200,000 a year, which is really good. You save up a ton of money over the course of 5 or 10 years where you can finally buy this tiny $1 million home in a city somewhere. And then all of a sudden legislature is passed where it would pretty much decrease the value of your home, at least for the next few years and maybe for the foreseeable future. So all of a sudden you've committed this giant sum of money and there's this piece of legislature saying that the value of your investment or the value of the money you've put into this property is going to go down over time. And so a lot of governments are in this very weird place where they don't want to make any people that do own a home mad, but they also don't want to make people that are trying to buy a home mad. And so we're kind of in this weird limbo place where regardless of what they do, they're gonna screw someone over. However, that is not the only reason why millennials and Gen Z cannot buy homes. It's not just because of the price and the income changes over the last 50 years. So as I mentioned earlier, millennials have roughly the same, if not a little bit greater buying power than their parents and grandparents did actually. Now there are a ton of differences about how millennials are earning their money. More millennials today and Gen Z are working multiple jobs to make that amount of money. They're working more hours, longer hours, less benefits. All of that is true. But in regards to buying a home, here's a couple more key differences and reasons why young people can't really buy homes. So another very obvious one is additional expenses that young people have today compared to their parents. I mean, just off the top of my head, millennials have a few additional expenses like internet and phone bills, the increased amount of student loan payments, and the general cost of living has gone up as well too. Another thing too is that a lot of millennials want to live in a city and choose to live in a city. About 88% of millennials and Gen Z today are living in a metropolitan area of some sort. And that's an increase of about 20 to 40% from what I could find. And one of the reasons why that's important is because, well, the cost of real estate in cities is much higher than it is in rural areas. I mean, just think about this. $2 million in a place like Manhattan gets you like a 1-bedroom, maybe a 2-bedroom apartment somewhere downtown in the city. But $2 million in a rural place, like not too far from New York, like let's say Maine or something like that, that will get you a castle somewhere. It can get you pretty much whatever you want. And so now that millennials are flocking to cities, some by choice, some because that's where the jobs are, it would make sense that it is less affordable to actually buy a house there. And one kind of last thing I'd like to mention too is that a lot of young people, Gen Z and millennials today, we're not getting married as much. In fact, young people today are getting married at a rate about 33% less than their parents and grandparents. And so in regards to buying a house, what this means is that a lot of young people today don't have a partner to help them buy a house. Now it's a lot of people are trying to buy a house by themselves when maybe even in 1970, 1980, 1990, there would at least be a full-time income and potentially a part-time income, if not 2 full-time incomes. But a lot of situations today are one young person trying to buy a house by themselves. So these are a lot of the general reasons as to why young people cannot buy houses today. And what do you think? Did I leave something out? Let me know what you think about this subject in the comments below. And I have a ton of other real estate videos like this. I have a whole playlist which you can probably check out somewhere on the sidebar or just on my channel page or in the link below. And lastly, I do have some new courses which help support me and this channel. So if you want to check out my investing course, business course, if you want to learn how to program, or if you want to learn how to make money from YouTube, like I shared with you, one of my YouTube videos made $31,000 American, which equates to like 40 grand Canadian, so that's nice. But if you want to learn how to do that stuff and learn how to become a YouTuber, please check out my courses in the link below. Again, that helps me out a bunch. I forgot to mention actually one other thing just quickly is that please go and follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'll be posting clips from my videos and these vlogs on there. So if you want to see me on there and see just like highlights of the these videos and just some tips on real estate investing and so on. I'm starting to post regularly on TikTok and Instagram and a little bit more on Facebook as well. So please follow me on there. I'm trying to grow that. And anyways, yeah, thank you. I'm getting back into the habit of making these kinds of higher quality videos. So stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys soon.